What's happening, everybody? John with Cra-Z-Dreams Life Coaching, and today I want to talk to you about boxes and labels. Boxes and labels. Now, when I say boxes and labels, I'm talking about boxes and labels that apply to people. For example, how many of you have ever been put in a box, which means somebody has said, hey, you need to stay in this lane, or you can only do this. For example, maybe you were athletic and you were great at sports, but then you decided, I want to go to school and I want to get my PhD. And you tell somebody and they say, I think you should stick with the sports, right? Or maybe maybe you were smart, good academically, doing really well in school, and you decided you wanted to try a sport. And somebody says, I think you need to stick to the books. I wouldn't do that if I were you, right? They're putting you in a box. They've decided that you can only do certain things, right? Or people give you labels, which is similar, right? They have a certain small list of things that they've decided you are, whether it's smart, athletic, whatever the label is. Sometimes parents do this. Parents do this with their kids. They decide one kid is one thing, and because the other person they decide is less that thing, they give that kid a different label. They say, oh, this is the handsome one, this is the pretty one, and they compliment that child's looks, but then they never say anything to the other kid, and they make that child feel like they're not attractive, right? So that's an example. I mentioned athleticism. It can be intelligence. Oh, this is the smart one, that's the athletic one, right? But as parents, when you say things like that about your kids, they internalize it, and it's hard for them to forget it, and they can carry that into adulthood. And what that does, boxes and labels impose restrictions on people, and it makes people think that they can only do certain things, and they get afraid to try new things or afraid to step outside the boxes and labels that their friends and family have given them. All right, so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Now, making assessments is human nature. We evaluate our environment. We look around and we say, this is big, that's small. We look at things in a relative way. What that does is it helps us decide if something is safe or dangerous, appealing, unappealing, and that allows us to make quick judgments. So that's something that's ingrained in the human DNA in order to keep us safe. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's a human instinct. But the problem occurs when we use that instinct to give people permanent labels. So we make a judgment about what somebody is based on our perception of that individual, and then we give them a permanent label based on our assessment. These type of judgments can cause issues in relationships with other people, and it causes issues in relationships with ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. Secondly, it can damage your self-esteem. And then thirdly, it can cause confusion about your identity because you don't know who you are. You've accepted what other people have said you are. And so you haven't decided for yourself who you are as a person. And you might have gifts that God gave you that you haven't even pursued because you're going by what other people said about you to determine who you are. I had my own personal experience with this growing up. My family and friends used to compare me and my brother, right? My brother was the athletic one. He was the handsome one. I was the smart one, and I guess I wasn't the so handsome one, right? So we had those labels growing up. You internalize that, and you think that's who you are until you're able to grow up and hopefully explore for yourself who you are, get out of the house, move away from your hometown, and then really explore for yourself and determine your own identity. Now, since this can cause havoc on our self-esteem and what we think about ourselves, or cause us to impose our own limitations even, what are some things we can do to escape the box? Now, the most important thing you can remember in this is do not determine your identity by comparing yourself to other people or by the labels that people give you. In other words, do not be a prisoner to other people's judgments about you. Some of the worst offenders in this are your friends and family, which are the people that are closest to you. And the reason that happens is because they've known you for a long time and they don't want to give you room to change and grow and evolve. They want you to stay who you've always been because people like predictability and they want to be able to know what to expect from you. They've got good memories with you. They want you to always be the same person, right? But that's not healthy. Everybody should have the freedom to grow and evolve. And if you're staying the same and you're staying stagnant, that is not a good sign. So if you've got people in your life, whether they're friends or family, who won't let you grow and who want you to always be the same person you have been, and as soon as you try to do something different or you start to grow, they start to give you little comments. They don't want to hang around you as much. They're basically using their judgments of you to hold you back. Whether they intend to do it or not, that's what they're doing, is that they're holding you back based on their judgments. And sometimes what we do is, in anticipation of their judgment, we keep ourselves in the box they made for us. We don't step outside that box because we're trying to save and maintain the relationship. But that's not a healthy relationship. If you feel like you're in a phase of life where you need to grow and you need to evolve and you need to find out who you really are or explore some new things, go for that. Do that. If the people in your life cannot grow with you and allow you to do that, then it might be time to move on and find some other relationships. Now with family, that can be tough. And what you might have to do is minimize interaction with people who won't accept the new you or allow you to grow. But with friends, sometimes, it's sad to say it, but sometimes we outgrow friends. And sometimes you might need to explore new relationships, which is hard for some of us to do. We've gotten comfortable with people, we've built a certain level of trust, and we want to hang out with the same people. But sometimes you're in a stage of life where you need to find a new circle of friends, and you might even come across some people who can help you in your dreams and goals and the stuff you're trying to achieve. But you have to be willing to give new people an opportunity to build a relationship with you. All right. So it's okay. Some great relationships are for a reason, some for a season, and some for a lifetime. So sometimes you have to move on past relationships and be open to establishing new ones. Now, when you do establish new relationships, make sure you establish them with people who are supportive, who accept you for who you are, and who are empowering and uplifting and help encourage you to get through tough times and to explore and become who you want to be for yourself. If they can't do that for you, keep it moving. Now, if you're going to have the caliber of friends that lift you up and propel you forward, you also have to learn to be that kind of friend for other people. You might have absorbed some of the habits from your friends that you've been exposed to over the years, and you might be negative in certain situations. You might be unsupportive. You, like I said earlier, you might put boxes and labels on people yourself. So evaluate yourself and be honest about where you are. And maybe you have to grow outside of some of the habits you have and be the friend that you want other people to be to you. Now, after you reevaluate your relationships, another thing you can do to get outside the box is to intentionally explore new things. Figure out for yourself what your strengths and weaknesses are. Maybe you might not be naturally inclined towards something, but maybe if you work at it, you can be good at it. So don't be afraid to try new things. And if you're not good at it at first, keep trying it for a while. Maybe you decide to give it up. Maybe you decide to keep going. But find out for yourself what you can and cannot do, what you like and what you don't like. Find out for yourself. Find out for yourself what your purpose is. These are important things for you to know if you're going to have a full and fulfilling life. After you find out for yourself who you are, embrace who you are and be the best you can be. Don't try to be perfect because nobody's perfect. It's progress over perfection. So you just have an attitude of constant growth, constant personal growth, and just continually make progress towards your goals and in your personal development. And don't worry about being perfect. Perfection is a standard nobody can reach, and ultimately you'll just end up disappointing yourself. So to recap, the way you escape the boxes and labels is You do not define yourself by comparing yourself to other people or by the labels people give you. You reevaluate and reprioritize relationships you have with people who are not tolerant and not supportive and don't give you room to evolve. You give yourself the freedom to explore and grow and find out who you are for yourself, which means you proactively are trying new things and figuring out what your strengths and weaknesses are, what your purpose is, so you can decide your own identity. And once you decide who you are, you embrace who you are as a person and don't strive for perfection. You only strive for progress, and don't hold yourself to an impossible standard. Now, before we close out, I'm going to give you a little homework. I want you to go home, or if you're at home, just get out a piece of paper and write down a list of all the good qualities you have, all the best qualities you can think of, the things that are good about you, the strengths that you have. Write all those qualities down, as many as you can think of. Write it down on paper. Then create a nice, neat, tidy list that you can reference on a regular basis. I want you to reference it regularly, whether it's daily, maybe you start out weekly, but reference that list regularly to reaffirm to yourself who you say you are and all the great things about you. As you continue to grow and evolve and learn new things, add new qualities to the list. The point is to focus and really focus regularly on seeing yourself positively and remembering who you are, because the world will beat up on you and you have naysayers and people out there discouraging you. So it's critical that you revisit this list and consistently remind yourself of who you know you are and everything that's great about you. All right. So if you do that, I promise you, you'll be on your way to being your best possible you, and you'll be ready to take on all the challenges out there in the world and accomplish your dreams.